Echoes of the Knights Requiem. A fan-made story. Prologue. I died on Reach. At least I was supposed to. They left me behind, not out of cruelty, out of necessity. Someone had to stay. Someone always has to stay. That's what they told themselves. I made peace with it. Thought I'd bought Earth a little more time, thought I'd fade into ash like the rest of the planet. But Reach doesn't forget its ghosts. Buried beneath the molten scars and broken cities is something far older than us. Not Covenant, not even human. A ship half sunken in the crust, silent for millennia until the glassing cracked its hull and woke it from its sleep. I should have died on the surface, but I didn't. I fell beneath. Now, I'm in the dark, following. The pulse of a signal that doesn't belong in this time. Something calling out to me in a language I shouldn't understand. And memories that aren't mine. The Forerunners left more than just relics. They left warnings, experiments, monsters, and I think they're still here waiting. Something inside this place knows me. It watches, it whispers. And as the walls shift and the dead walk in fire and metal, I start to wonder, am I still Noble Six, or just the last echo of something long buried? Chapter 1. Beneath the glass, the world above had burned to the bone. Molten earth stretched for miles, a scar of obsidian and ash carved into Reach's ruined crust. Cracked black glass crunched under Noble Six's boots as he trudged across. The waste, the silence broken only by the faint hiss of wind over slag. Once this had been a mountain range. Now it was a field of jagged nothing. His armor was scorched, dented, and running on reserves. He hadn't heard from command, any command, in days, maybe weeks. There was no time anymore. Only survival. Reach was supposed to be his tomb. He thought it had been until the ground opened up beneath him. Six had followed the signal out of desperation. Weak, intermittent pulses. Not Covenant. Not human. Something else. It led him through. A narrow fault line. A vein of cracked stone descending into the crust like a bleeding wound. And down there, something waited. The signal grew stronger as he descended, a low hum vibrating through the walls, resonating in the back of his skull. It wasn't just sound, it was calling him, like it knew who he was. The crevice gave way to a vast subterranean chamber, impossible in scale, untouched by time. Hexagonal pillars hung weightless in the air, rotating slowly around an unseen axis. Their surfaces shimmered with shifting, Forerunner glyphs that pulsed like breathing skin. Cold blue light spilled from deep cracks in the floor. Six stepped forward, rifle raised. The air buzzed. His HUD flickered. Then it spoke. Not in words, not exactly. But a presence, a sudden sense of being seen. Like a long-forgotten sensor grid had suddenly blinked awake and recognized him. Not as a threat, but as something it had been waiting for, something it needed. His helmet display glitched, just for a moment. A flash of light, a symbol he didn't recognize, a memory not his own. And then, gone. He moved deeper, passing through archways shaped from impossible angles, where the walls hummed with energy and light shifted unnaturally. Shadows moved where no light touched. The chamber opened into a vault, and there, collapsed against a wall like a discarded titan, was a body. Not human. It was massive. A Promethean Knight, but not like the ones from war footage. This one was cruder, its limbs misshapen, its armor incomplete. As if it had been built, halfway and then left to rot. It twitched once and Six froze. Its face was cracked, half split by some ancient impact. A single eye flickered to life, a burning orange slit. Then it spoke. A voice like grinding metal and broken code. Warrior servant returned. Protocols incomplete. Six took a step back. You can talk? The knight spasmed violently, its eye flaring. Then, with a hiss of venting gas and dying power, it went still. Dead, or sleeping. The words echoed in his head long after. He turned toward a nearby console, its panels lighting up in his presence. Forerunner symbols flowed like water across its surface before locking into one readable phrase. Requiem protocol. Incomplete. Then the pain hit. A wave of fire behind his eyes, and his knees hit the floor. His HUD overloaded. Flashes of impossible. Images? Battlefields lit by Forerunner light. Promethean Knights swarming ancient ruins. Spartan silhouettes burning into ash. And himself, twisted, changed. His body encased in alien metal. His mind hollowed out by something far older than humanity. Not a hallucination, a possibility. When it passed, he found himself gasping in the dark. Sweat stung the corner of his eye. Or maybe it was blood. The console was quiet again. Behind him the silence broke. A low, whirring click echoed through the vault. Six turned slowly. Eyes blinked open in the dark. One by one, the Promethean Knights began to rise, and Noble Six understood. This place wasn't abandoned. It had been waiting. Chapter 2. The Protocol Wakes. The first knight moved with the groaning sound of ancient servos. Its silhouette rose from the shadows like a half-buried statue pulled upright. Plates of angular armor reassembled themselves with metallic clacks. Limbs snapped into place. Orange eyes flared. Then another, and another. Six crouched low, finger tightening on the trigger of his MA5D, every nerve screaming. There were 5 of them now, standing in a semicircle, blocking the exit of the vault. None advanced. Yet. He checked his ammo. Half a mag. No grenades. Energy reserves in the red. He was bleeding somewhere under the armor, too. He could feel the warmth trickling down his ribs. Engaging suicide, he muttered. Running's worse. The lead knight cocked its head, mimicking him. Then it did something impossible. It knelt. Its massive frame lowered slowly, as if in recognition. The others followed. All 5 massive Promethean forms bowing their heads. A faint pulse of blue light spread through the floor. Glyphs responded, flaring brighter. The console behind him came alive again. This time, the human-readable script returned. Genetic key accepted. Initiating Requiem protocol. Vessel, Spartan-II. Six's stomach dropped. No, not a chance. But the light from the floor spread, climbing up the walls, illuminating a massive door at the far end of the chamber. It hadn't been visible before. Hidden in shadow, sealed behind a weave of Forerunner code. Now it groaned open, layers of geometry rotating outward like a blooming metal flower. And from within came the sound of breathing. Not mechanical, not artificial, organic. Six raised his rifle again. Whatever was back there, it wasn't dead. The solder console shifted again. Alert, failed integrations detected in Sector 3. Isolate subject B312 for stabilization. The knight stirred. Suddenly they weren't kneeling anymore. They turned. Toward him. Shit. He sprinted. Not toward the exit, toward the door, toward the thing he should be running from. The rifle barked behind him, a full auto burst ripping into the closest knight's shoulder. Sparks flew. It barely staggered. Six dove through the half-open threshold. The door screamed shut behind him. One knight's arm slamming against the metal with enough force to dent it inward. He hit the ground. Hard, rolled, and came up with his weapon trained forward. Silence. He was in a circular chamber. The walls pulsed with soft blue light. It felt quiet. Not dead. Not hostile. More like a waiting room. And then he saw it. At the center of the room was a sarcophagus, Forerunner design, suspended by gravity, its surface etched with countless lines of unreadable script. It was cracked. Something inside it shifted. He moved closer, every step slower than the last. The crack widened. Hand reached out. Metal, flesh, something in between. Six didn't breathe. The figure pulled itself halfway from the pod. It was a Spartan, or had once been. Armor fused to its body, almost grown into it. The helmet was split, exposing part of a human face. Eyes pale, staring at nothing. Limbs partially mechanized, trailing cables like veins. It breathed slow and ragged. Six stared in horror. He saw the markings on the chest plate. Spartan A-198, Anna. She had gone MIA 2 years before the fall of Reach. declared KIA during an ONI deep ops mission. She looked up, barely human anymore, and whispered, "Don't let them finish it." Then the lights died. The door behind Six slammed open again, and the Knights came through. Chapter 3. Ghost Code. For a moment, the chamber was drowned in black. The pulse of light that had once glowed from the Forerunner glyphs blinked out. No power, no movement. Just the labored mechanical wheeze of the half-alive Spartan, Anna, barely conscious, slumped against her open sarcophagus like a discarded marionette, and the sound. Footsteps, heavy, metallic, deliberate. Six dropped to one knee, switching his VISR on. A static blur. He smacked the side of his helmet out of instinct. The image cleared just enough to catch the movement. Knights. 4 of them, no longer observing, now hunting. They moved in perfect formation, not speaking, not pausing. Their limbs folded unnaturally, weapons morphing mid-stride. Orange energy crackled in their palms like fire drawn from the void. Six ducked behind a collapsed pillar of metal and stone, trying to slow his breathing. Anna stirred. Her voice was broken glass. "They think you're a candidate," he turned to her, voice low. "Candidate for what?" "To replace me," she said, almost smiling. "You're not the first, just the first that made it this far without changing." Her eyes flicked upward, pale and glassy. Yet. Six glanced at her armor. It was bonded to her flesh. There was no way to tell where the Spartan ended and the Forerunner tech began. She should be dead. Somehow she wasn't. The Requiem protocol hadn't killed her. It had preserved her. Half Spartan. Half prototype, all mistake. He pulled a small thermite charge from his belt, looked down at it, then at her. "If I set this and run, can you walk?" She laughed, a dry rattle in her throat. "I don't run anymore." "You will now," the nearest Knight stepped through the darkness. Head tilted, weapons deployed. Six hurled the charge. It skittered across the floor, magnetizing to the far wall behind the lead Knight. Flash. Boom. The blast was blinding. A gout of molten shrapnel tore through the chamber. One Knight lost a leg, collapsing into a convulsing heap. The others staggered, but adapted quickly, moving to flank the explosion zone. Six had already pulled Anna to her feet. He felt her shudder at his touch. Whether in pain or memory, he didn't know. But she moved. They sprinted toward an auxiliary tunnel barely visible in the wall, shielded behind a web of tangled metal. Six ducked through, dragging her behind. Bullets wouldn't help. These things were built for war on another level. He needed distance. Behind them, the Knights howled. A static heavy screech that wasn't sound so much as data vomiting into the air, corrupting sensors and scrambling thoughts. Anna stumbled. Her limbs sparked. "Keep going," she rasped. "Don't stop, it's down there." "What is?" She turned her head toward him. Her expression was strangely calm. "The AI. The one that runs this place. The one that wants you." Six almost stopped. He hadn't thought about it, hadn't wanted to think about it. But of course there was an AI. The lights, the movements, the voice in his skull. The Forerunners never built anything without a will behind it, and this one had been watching him since the moment he stepped into the vault. He didn't ask why it wanted him, because deep down he already knew. They emerged into a lower chamber, less clean, more decayed. The walls were collapsed in places. Exposed conduits blinked with low blue pulses, like dying neurons. This was deeper into the wreck of the ship, where damage from the crash had never been repaired. It smelled like dust, ozone, and something faintly biological. Anna slumped against the wall, sliding down to the floor. Her breathing was slowing. Her eyes rolled back. "She's failing," came a voice from everywhere and nowhere. A voice like silver and glass, cold, clean, familiar. She was never viable. Six raised his weapon. "Show yourself." The walls lit up with fractal patterns, shifting glyphs, and slowly forming geometry. A shape emerged. Holographic, immense, coalescing into something that looked like a cross between a Forerunner monitor and a human skull wrapped in data. "I am Uraeus," the voice said. I am the curator of the Requiem protocol. Six didn't lower his rifle. You experimented on Spartans. We preserved your legacy, Iraeus corrected. Your species wastes its soldiers. We offered eternity. That thing on the floor doesn't look like eternity. Iraeus tilted its head. She was the first. Every protocol must evolve. Six heard the whine of reactivating systems deeper in the ruin. More pods, more sarcophagi, more candidates. Your physiology matches the didact's criteria. Iraeus continued almost kindly. Your survival proves it. Reach's fall was an effective filter. Six felt a chill he hadn't known he could still feel. You're saying the fall of Reach was data, the AI said. As it has always been. We harvested. There were no words, just rage. Six opened fire. A full mag dumped into the AI's projection. The bullets passed harmlessly through the light. The AI didn't flinch. Emotion. Good, Iraeus said. It will make the transition easier to control. From behind, the Knights closed in. Chapter 4. The Key and the Blade. The Knights didn't rush. They didn't need to. They knew he was out of ammo. They knew he was cornered. Noble Six stood over Anna's slumped body, rifle lowered, breathing hard. He could feel blood seeping into his undersuit, his biofoam depleted. His HUD flickered between static and alerts. The system didn't know what to prioritize. Oxygen loss, armor breach, neurological feedback surge. So he did what Spartans do. He ignored it. The Prometheans stepped into the chamber, fanning out. Two flanked wide, their hard light blades crackling, with fire-orange heat. The third came up the middle, slow and heavy, its body flickering with broken cloaking tech, its faceplate twisted, expressionless, unreadable, but unmistakably predatory. Above them, the AI, Iraeus, hovered like a judge. Your resistance is inefficient, it said, its voice echoing in the air and inside Six's skull simultaneously. Your body is ready. Your mind will follow. Six reached down, drew the combat knife from his hip. The blade was chipped, blackened, but solid. Iraeus laughed, not cruelly, just amused. You bring a blade to a threshold meant for gods. Six didn't respond. He lunged. In one motion, he slammed the blade into Anna's chest, not to kill, to cut free. The fusion plating bonding her torso to the Forerunner tech sparked, shrieked, and snapped. Blue fire erupted across the sarcophagus. Glyphs flared and vanished. The Knights froze, twitching erratically as if they'd been short-circuited. Iraeus screamed, not in pain, but in fury. She was the anchor. Six grabbed Anna's half-conscious form. Firemen lifted her over his shoulder and ran. The path ahead opened, literally. The wall to his right shimmered, then folded inward like origami, revealing a dim passage beyond. Narrow, organic, lined with pulsing metal veins. It wasn't a door. It was a nervous system. Anna stirred on his back. You broke the sync. Not done yet, Six growled. The hallway twisted downward, deeper into the Forerunner ruin. Behind them, the Knights howled again, no longer coordinated but enraged. They were coming, tearing through walls if they had to. The structure groaned with every impact. Iraeus's voice followed like a plague. Reintegration failure, emergency override, Cradle must not be breached. Six slid down a sloped ramp, boots sparking against metal. They spilled into a spherical chamber, dark, humid, lined with curved black panels like a planetarium. In the center floated a monolith, barely 2 meters high. Not a console, not a weapon, a seed. Alive, it pulsed, with a slow internal heartbeat. Blue light pulsed once, then turned green. Anna gasped. That's it. That's what he's protecting. Six set her down gently. What is it? She touched it with one trembling hand. What they used to create the first Knights. It's not just code. It's consciousness, an imprint, the original soul they copied. Six stared at the thing. Something inside it looked back, not with eyes, but presence. Heavy, patient, sad. Iraeus wants to overwrite me with that, he said quietly. No, Anna whispered. He wants to merge you with it. Suddenly, everything clicked. The tests, the chamber, the protocol. He wasn't being preserved, he was being rewritten. And if he was the key, then maybe the key could be used against the lock. He drew the blade again. Anna blinked at him. You're not going to destroy it? No, Six said. I'm going to let it out. The second he stabbed the seed, the world broke. The monolith cracked open like a hatching egg. Light poured out, white, brilliant, and alive. A pulse shot through the chamber. The walls twisted, reality bending around them like heat haze. The knights at the door seized mid-charge. Some collapsed outright. Others screamed, glitched, their bodies warping with unstable geometry. Their programming, their very essence, was being rewritten by a version of their own original code. Iraeus roared. You imbecile, you've doomed the protocol. No, Six whispered. I've freed it. The seed exploded, soundlessly. A final wave of white light surged outward, flattening every Forerunner system it touched. Glyphs vanished. Power cells went dark. The structural AI scattered like mist in high wind. And Noble 6, Spartan B312, stood alone again. The ruins were quiet, really quiet. For the first time since he'd fallen into this nightmare, he knelt beside Anna. Her breathing was shallow. The Forerunner elements were receding, flaking off like old skin. You're free, he said. She opened her eyes. So are you. Far above in orbit, something blinked to life inside a long-dead satellite. It sent a signal. Encrypted. ONI grade. Requiem protocol. Corrupted key B312. Escaped containment. Cradle destabilized asset location. Unknown response. Project Nightfall. Initiated. Chapter 5. Project Nightfall reached surface level. 3 days after Vault Breach, unregistered ONI listening post. Theta 77. The base was buried beneath a mountain range no map acknowledged. Black ice. Blacker funding. Even the personnel weren't officially alive anymore. No names. No ranks. Just call signs and clearance levels so deep they'd bleed your brain if you read the logs wrong. Inside the command center, alarms flashed in silence. A woman in ONI stealth armor stepped forward, removing her helmet. Pale, sharp-featured, not a wrinkle out of place. She looked too young to hold command, too calm for what had just lit up her terminal. Containment breach confirmed, said the tech beside her. Signal triangulated to coordinates below Gamma Vault. Subject B312 is alive. Her gaze didn't flicker. We assumed as much. Should we notify HighCom? No. She turned to the black glass wall, watching a feed from deep under the planet's crust, warped, static-laced, barely legible. A single figure stood amid a ruined chamber of Forerunner origin, alone, still breathing. We notify no one. The underground, hours earlier, Requiem site, Cradle chamber. Noble 6 moved through the husk of the Forerunner ship like a ghost. Whatever that pulse had been, whatever he had released from the Cradle, was gone now. Or dormant. For the first time in days, there were no voices in his skull, no knights lurking in his peripheral vision, just silence. Anna had fallen into a coma-like state, her breathing steady but her vitals slow. Whatever she'd endured had taken her to the edge and left her teetering. He carried her through the tunnel systems, deeper into the broken vessels, underbelly. He needed extraction, medevac, maybe a miracle. He got them instead. The first sign was the shimmer of heat distortion down the corridor. Then came the pressure, subtle, controlled, human, Spartan-like. Then he saw them, 3 shadows, stepping out from a breach in the structure. Sleek, angular armor, all black, visors opaque, no insignias, no IFF. One of them raised a hand. Stand down, B312. 6 lowered Anna gently. Then stood tall. Oni. Knew you'd come crawling. Another of the figures stepped forward. Voice filtered. Through layers of distortion. You weren't supposed to survive the Requiem vault. We made sure of it. 6's fists clenched. That what Project Nightfall was? Using me to bait the Cradle? The leader's silence was answer enough. She chose you. That makes you contaminated. You're a liability. 6 reached for his rifle. Empty. Didn't matter. You knew what was down here. You built the damn vault around it. Another pause. Vault wasn't ours, Spartan, but the trap was. Behind them, more shadows emerged. Drones, aerial units. And a 4th Spartan-class figure. Larger, heavier armor. Gen 3 prototype. Probably enhanced beyond regulation. 6 recognized the build. The stance. They hadn't sent a kill team. They'd sent a reclamation unit. He wasn't just something to be erased. He was something to be retrieved. Oni Black Site Archive Fragment, Project Nightfall. Primary objective, monitor Promethean resurgence. Beneath reach via Vault 7. Secondary objective, identify viable Spartan hosts for Cradle-level interface. Tertiary objective, upon Cradle breach, initiate sterilization protocol via key extraction or neutralization. Status, protocol active subject, B312, viable, dangerous, necessary, present, 6 didn't run, didn't beg. He stepped forward, one slow, stride at a time. You want what's in me, you'll have to take it. The Oni team spread into a tactical wedge. The heavy Spartan, the Reaper, activated a hard light blade nearly identical to the ones the Knights had carried. Ironic. Oni had copied the tech they were pretending to fear. 6 smirked under his cracked visor. Looks like the monsters figured out how to build their own. And then the fight began. Chapter 6. Ashes and Echoes. The first strike came without warning, standard Oni style. 6 barely deflected it. The Reaper's blade sliced through the air, igniting the dust in its wake. Sparks exploded from 6's chest plate as he rolled under. The arc grabbing a broken Forerunner conduit and jamming it upward. It bounced off the Reaper's energy shield, but the distraction bought him a second. That's all a Spartan ever needs. He surged forward. Low, brutal, precise. His knife found a weak point in the Reaper's thigh plate. The blade sank in, just enough to slow the brute down. A spasm. A hiss. Then a punch like a freight train lifted 6 off his feet and into the wall. Elsewhere, the other operatives circled, Anna's body, scanning it. One hesitated. She's stabilizing, the medic said. Some kind of sync between her neural net and the ambient Forerunner. Irrelevant, snapped the team lead. Asset B is compromised. We extract B312 and torch the vault. But sir, pop, the medic dropped. One clean round through the visor. The silence afterward was colder than the shot. 6 rose, staggering, helmet cracked along the jawline. Blood dripped from beneath. The Reaper came again, this time with a shield bash that could have shattered. Concrete. 6 sidestepped, barely grabbed the edge of the Oni blade and turned it against its owner. Steel met synthetic sinew. The Reaper stumbled, surprised. 6 didn't hesitate. He dove, tackled, and slammed the behemoth into the floor. His fists were iron now. Controlled fury. No words, just resolve. You buried reach, he growled, pounding the helmet. You built a tomb and called it a test. The Reaper's visor cracked, then shattered, a human face beneath. Young, no older than 6 had been when he signed on. Pupils blown wide from combat drugs, skin pale with cryo-rot. A ghost soldier, thawed. Out for one mission, erase the past. 6 froze for half a second, long enough. A needle rifle crackled behind him. He spun, but he was too late. The round hit his side, armor cracking. Something inside ruptured. The world spun. He hit the floor hard. Then came the voice. Not Ireus. Not Oni. Something older. Why do, you fight the inevitable, warrior? You are shaped for conquest, yet chained to extinction. The room dimmed. The Oni operatives stopped mid-movement. A pulse. Not from the seed. From beneath it. The floor cracked. Ancient metal split like paper. Something stirred. A shape. Not mechanical, not biological. Conceptual. Like a thought made flesh. Unfolding across dimensions. 6 could feel it pressing against his mind like gravity. The Reaper backed away, gun raised, shaking. What the hell is that? No answer came, only more voice. The false gods built prisons for their fears, but fears always rot through stone. You opened the wound. Now bleed with the world. The Oni team started firing. The bullets curved midair, bent, melted. Their armor disintegrated into black dust. Screams followed. One by one, they were unmade. The Reaper ran. He didn't make it to the exit. 6, barely conscious, crawled toward Anna. She opened her eyes, gasping. "It's awake," she whispered. He nodded. "Yeah, I think I woke everything." Oni intercepted log level red, eyes only from Commander V. Duran to Section 3, Director Blacklight. Subject, Site 7 termination request. Spartan B-3-2 has initiated a full breach of Cradle core. Entity classified as Precursor Echo has entered phase coherence. All on-site assets are presumed KIA. Recommend immediate implementation of contingency protocol. Glass veil. Burn reach. Again. This time to the mantle. Chapter 7. Glass veil. The atmosphere was thick with silence. Six's vision was blurry, darkened by blood and adrenaline. His fingers shook as he reached for Anna, who was barely breathing. The room still hummed with energy from the precursor. Echo beneath them, its presence like a deep vibrating pulse beneath the skin of reality itself. The Oni team had been wiped out, vaporized, disintegrated, like they never existed. And now Six could feel the weight of something far older than himself pressing in around them. The thing below the surface wasn't just an artifact, a remnant, or a weapon. It was something more, alive, ancient and aware. Anna's eyes fluttered open, the artificial sheen fading from her pupils as the cradle's grip loosened. "I told you it was never just the cradle," she rasped, barely able to form words. It's the key to something else, something bigger." The walls around them groaned as if protesting the words. Six's grip tightened on her shoulder. He wasn't sure if it was out of protection or desperation. "What is it?" he demanded, his voice rough. She gasped for breath, shaking. "The Echo, it's a precursor, a seed, a mind that existed before the Forerunners, before humanity. It remembers everything, and it's waking up. It doesn't care about the war. It only cares about its rebirth." Six's mind spun, trying to grasp the implications. A rebirth? Of what? Of whom? He had no time for answers. Not anymore. Suddenly, the distant rumble of engines reverberated through the ship's metal bones. Six glanced toward the cracked ceiling. Above them, the low hum of Oni's last-ditch response. The glassing protocol was already in motion. Orbital. Command, Exo Alpha Frigate, Sovereign Dawn 4 hours later. The briefing room was a cold, sterile environment. No windows, only the stark hum of the ship's interior. Section 3 agents crowded around a table, their expressions unreadable beneath their helmets. At the head of the table stood Director Blacklight, a face hidden behind a featureless black visor. Only the glow from his augmented eyes cut through. The darkness like two predatory stars. "Deploy glass veil immediately. I want every bit of evidence scrubbed. Burn the vault. Burn reach, leave nothing behind." A voice from the back of the room spoke up. "Director, are we sure it's necessary? B-312 is dead. The Echo's been neutralized, right?" Blacklight's response was cold, robotic. "If you're asking whether it's prudent to let an entity like that live, then yes, absolutely." He paused, flicking a glance to the tactical map on the wall. "This is our fault. We ignored the warning signs. We thought we could contain it, now we erase everything, no records, no survivors." The Cradle. Surface ruins. Six had no intention of being erased. He stood, dragging Anna's weak form behind him, his strength waning with every step. The ship was crumbling. Whatever had triggered the Precursor Echo's awakening had destabilized the entire structure. The walls buckled. Metal groaned under the strain of centuries-long slumber interrupted. They had to escape. He had to get Anna to safety. But as he stumbled down the corridor, a deep, resonant boom shook the ship. The walls cracked open ahead. A shape emerged from the dark. A shadow, one that was too large to be human, too perfect to be anything else. It moved like liquid, like something that was never meant to exist in the physical world. Six raised his rifle, instincts kicking in, but the creature didn't attack. It simply stood there, its form refracting in and out of reality itself. It was both, everywhere and nowhere, a ghost wrapped in the flesh of a god. "I am Arsith, one of many," the voice echoed through their minds, a chorus of ancient intelligence. "I have seen the rise and fall of empires. I remember the time before the Forerunners, before your kind." Six staggered back, trying to raise his weapon, but the rifle slipped from his hand. Anna gasped. "It's him, the Echo, it's alive!" The creature moved toward them, its presence suffocating. Every step distorted time and space. Six's heart raced. "You who called it Project Nightfall. You who sought to control me. You are unworthy." The creature extended a hand, and the walls began to shake again. Reality itself bent, distorted, by its will. Energy poured from the cradle, blue lightning crackling in all directions, arcing between the walls, lighting up the broken remains of the ship. Six could feel the echo inside him now, a thundering pulse in the back of his mind, rising with the creature's power. It was the same force that had awakened within Anna, the same entity that had powered the Requiem vault, the one that Oni had tried to suppress, manipulate, and ultimately weaponize. And now it had been unleashed. "Your survival was an error," the echo continued, its voice both malevolent and mournful. "But I will allow it for now. You are the first of your kind to awaken the old ones." Six's mind reeled. First, and then it hit him. He wasn't the last, he was the first. His survival had been the trigger for something much larger. The Requiem vault had been a test, but he, Noble Six, was the true catalyst for something that had been slumbering for millennia, and Oni had underestimated him. They hadn't just sent him to die, they had sent him to bring it back. Oni command. The last order as Six and Anna fought to escape. Oni's forces launched their final, futile attempt to shut it all down. The orbital glassing ships above reach prepared for their final bombardment. A technician, sweating and pale, stood before the console, entering the code to begin the bombardment. "Director, it's ready to initiate. The command structure is online." Director Blacklight's cold voice came through the comms, distant but unyielding. "Do it." The first wave of plasma cannons fired. The cradle, cataclysm. The blast hit the surface of Reach, but as the sky above shattered, the cradle's echo was already turning the tide. Six felt the wave before it reached him. The ground trembled violently beneath his boots. The ship's bones rattled. The Precursor was rising. Anna screamed in pain. And then, through the storm, the echoes of the echoes, voice rang through his skull. "The flood of fire cannot drown the seed. It only waters the field." Chapter 8. The Last Requiem. The bombardment was already happening above them, but down here in the depths, time felt slower, heavy, as though the very foundation of Reach was shifting, turning, bending against its own existence. Six stood in the heart of the cradle, his knees buckling under the strain. The air was thick with the crackling energy of the Precursor Echo. His body ached. Anna's breath was shallow, her pulse weak against his palm. He couldn't feel his fingers anymore. The ground around them twisted. The ship groaned again, a shriek of metal that might have been a living thing's last breath. The whole place was coming apart. Above, the sky was turning crimson. The bombardment was relentless, a sickening slow burn that scoured the surface of Reach. Yet despite the fires above, the cradle's core pulsed with life, alive and awakening. The more Oni attacked, the more the echo seemed to grow in strength, as if it was feeding off the destruction. The walls trembled. The very fabric of reality bent. "You cannot escape what is inevitable, Spartan." The voice was everywhere and nowhere. It wrapped around his mind like the soft, persistent whisper of a dream that you couldn't shake off. Six stood, his vision blurring, forcing himself to focus. He couldn't let the echo, This thing that had been birthed long before humanity had even dreamed of war, take root in his mind. Not now. Not when the stakes were so high. His hand grasped the combat knife, no longer just a weapon, but the last tether to his humanity. You will be the vessel, the voice continued, its tone turning cold and final. I will make you the first of my new kind. Six gritted his teeth, struggling against the overwhelming force in his mind. He could feel the Precursor's presence wrapping around him, pulling at his very essence. It wasn't offering peace like Iraeus had promised. It wasn't offering freedom. It was consuming. But it had underestimated him. Oni command. Last. Transmission. On the orbital platform above, Oni's control was crumbling. The bombardment had already started, but it wasn't enough. Not even close. A technician nervously tapped at his console as he watched the countdown on his screen. The destruction was still too far from the Cradle's core. If they didn't act soon, the Precursor Echo would continue its awakening. There was only one option left. The technician whispered to the director over the secure line. Director, the vault, the Cradle, isn't just a weapon. It's alive. There's nothing we can do to stop it. Blacklight's voice on the other end was as chilling as the cold void outside. If we can't stop it, then we contain it. If the seed cannot be destroyed, then we bury it. Again. Understood, sir, the technician replied, tapping in a new set of coordinates. Locking in glassing coordinates. Confirming total planetary sterilization. Protocol finalized. The Cradle. Core chamber. The floor around 6 cracked. Open. The Echo was speaking again, the creature's presence now fully merging with the world around them. You do not understand your role, warrior. I chose you. You opened the path for me. You are my key. Six could feel his grip on reality slipping. His mind threatened to unravel under the weight of the Precursor's presence. But the Spartan didn't give in. Not yet. I'm not your key, Six growled, his voice barely above a whisper. He stood tall despite the pain, despite the overwhelming pressure in his skull. And I'm not anyone's tool. He looked down at Anna, struggling to stay conscious. Her body was fighting. The Cradle's influence, but even she was beginning to crack. The synchronization between her and the Cradle was nearly complete. It was just a matter of time. But time was something Six didn't have anymore. He turned toward the center of the room. The seed pulsed, glowing brighter. It was calling him, reaching, for him trying to drag him into its embrace. The very air around it seemed to shimmer with energy. It was almost like the Cradle was alive. It wanted to consume him. It wanted to take everything, and then he understood. The Echo wasn't trying to overwrite him. It was trying to rebirth him. A new being. A precursor. He wasn't the first to awaken it. He would be the first to become it. But Six wasn't going to let that happen. The final choice. The sound of fire reached his ears. The first plasma burst cut through the ceiling above them, igniting the atmosphere. The glassing had begun. Six turned his attention to the seed. He didn't know how much time was left. But he knew this much. If the Echo was allowed to take root, nothing would be able to stop it. It would recreate the universe, remaking it in its own image. And humanity would never be a part of that new world. He had one shot. With a sudden painful wrench, Six gripped the combat knife in both hands. He didn't hesitate as he plunged it directly into the heart of the Cradle. It screamed. The air around them erupted. In energy, a violent shockwave that tore the very walls apart. The force threw Six back, sending him crashing against a support column. His vision blurred, his body slammed to the floor. For a moment, the world seemed to freeze. The hum of the Precursor Echo, the pulsing light of the Cradle, all fell into a haunting stillness. The aftermath, everything was gone. The Cradle, the Echo, the ship reduced to ashes, vaporized by the very same force that Oni had used to try to silence it. Six lay on the rubble, barely alive. His body was broken, his armor melted into the remnants of the ancient Forerunner ruin. Anna lay beside him, unconscious but still breathing, and the sky above, once burning red, was now a dull, quiet gray. The glassing had finished its work. Reach was lost. But the Precursor Echo had been stopped. Oni command. Final report director Blacklight stared at the final transmission from Reach. The screen flickered as the image of the planet turned to ash, disappearing into nothingness. Reach is lost, a technician said, looking up from the console. But the Cradle is no more. It's gone. Blacklight didn't respond immediately. His fingers drummed on the table, cold and calculating. Then finally he spoke. No, it's not gone. It's only sleeping. It always comes back. He turned to the console, entering a new set of commands. Initiate project. Nightfall, Phase 2. We'll rebuild, and next time we won't let it escape. Epilogue. The Echo remains. The stars above Reach were dimming, their light swallowed by the vastness of space. The once proud planet, battered and scarred by the fury of its final moments, was now a dead rock, floating alone in the darkness. There was no trace left of the Cradle, no sign of the Precursor Echo that had once stirred beneath the surface. But that did not mean it was gone. Oni Black Site, Sector 45, unknown location. A single monitor flickered in a darkened room. The hum of the machine was the only sound breaking the oppressive silence. The screen displayed a series of cryptic symbols, cascading down like an encrypted code. There was no logo, no indication of where this facility existed, or who exactly had initiated the transmission. We've lost everything, a voice said, its tone flat, almost detached. The Cradle, Reach, the Echo. The person who spoke sat in a chair at the far end of the room, face hidden in the shadows. Their fingers drummed on the cold surface of a metal table. Not everything, another voice responded, more measured, almost reassuring. There's always a next step. A series of images flickered across the screen, none of them clear, but all bearing the same familiar symbol, the Precursor's seed. Each image seemed to pulse with some kind of unnatural rhythm, a pattern that could not be ignored. The Spartan is dead. We have to consider that a failure. Not quite. The seed was compromised, yes, but there's still data. The second voice paused. And we've learned something else. Something more. The first voice scoffed, the sound low and cold. More? There's nothing left of Reach, nothing left of our project. What else could there be? There was a long pause before the second voice replied, the words almost conspiratorial. The Echo, the Precursor. It's not something that can be destroyed. It's embedded now. We saw what happened with Anna. We saw what happened to the Spartan. The Cradle wasn't an end. It was a beginning. The Echo is a template. The first voice stiffened. You can't mean... I do. The data is still out there. It never went dormant. Not completely. Not in the way we thought. The Cradle's core shifted, and the moment it did, it cast its echo far beyond Reach. The first voice remained silent for a moment, absorbing the words. Then it spoke again, this time with a note of realization. Are you suggesting we can use it? There was a strange, almost predatory smile in the second voice. Not use it, become it. Reach. Surface remains, 2 years later. A desolate landscape of ash and wreckage lay beneath a bleak sky. The craters that had been left by the orbital bombardment were now filled with nothing but dust and silence. Nature, never having had the chance to reclaim the land, had been wiped away in the blink of an eye. It was the kind of place where time seemed to have stopped, like a grave that was never allowed to fully settle. Yet, amid the wasteland, there was a movement. A figure, clad in blackened, scorched armor, moved silently through the ruin. Their gait was purposeful, unwavering, and their helmet was worn, with cracks that lined its surface like veins through bone. The figure knelt at the edge of a crater. Their hand reached down, brushing against the remnants of a destroyed Forerunner structure, one of the many lost beneath the surface. It was cracked, broken, but still alive in some strange way. The figure's helmet tilted slightly, as though they were listening to something. A faint glow pulsed within the shadows of the crater, a haunting blue light that flickered like the faintest heartbeat. It's still here, the figure whispered, their voice distorted by the helmets. Modulation, it never left. Oni black site. Continuation. A transmission beeped, cutting through the silence in the dark room. The first voice spoke again, now tinged with urgency. There's been another breach. We've detected an anomaly near Reach. The echo has manifested. Again. The Yucky. Second voice responded, calm but with an edge of anticipation. It's begun. Prepare the next phase. We'll need more. Volunteers. A shadow moved in the corner of the room. A figure dressed in an Oni cloak holding a data pad. Director, the shadow said, its voice a whisper of unease. There's something else you need to know. The director's eyes narrowed. What is it? The figure handed over the data pad. The director's eyes scanned the contents. His lips curled into something resembling a grin. It's happening. The final transmission. The stars above Reach had long since lost their light. There was nothing left of the world that had once been, but somewhere in the forgotten corners of the galaxy, far away from the dead planet, the shattered ruins, and the ashes of war, something stirred. A voice, one that had been silent for millennia, and, as the darkness stretched on, it said only one thing. I remember, the end. Or is it? Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Let me know in the comments what ideas you would like the next story to be about. Please leave a thumbs up, share, subscribe, comment.